The purpose of this video tutorial is to familiarize the user with the different features and tools found on the Insta-X tab. This video was recorded using CubeVue version 2.809. Some of these features are found in earlier versions of CubeVue as well. The first time you open a patient's pedCAT scan, or if you happen to reset the session for that particular patient scan, you'll notice a pop-up appear, and you have to make a selection before you can proceed any further. It's going to say select dataset anatomy. So you need to select either left foot, right foot, or both feet. And we're checking both feet in this case. What that does is lets CubeVue software know, with the Insta-X module, which series of images to create that will simulate 2D X-ray images. Clicking on the Insta-X tab, we can see that CubeVue software is starting to prepare a series of images that simulate comparable 2D images that you would be taking with a 2D X-ray system. Selecting left foot, right foot, or both feet does a couple of things. It lets the software know how to properly label the images, whether it be a lateral left foot or an oblique right foot. It also lets the software know how to prepare the image based on the orientation of the image we're trying to create. Are we looking at it from the side? Are we looking from anterior, posterior? Or are we looking from an oblique angle? Also, in the case of having 2 feet, it enables us to separate out either the left foot or the right foot and create some specific images for that foot. These images, as we saw, are automatically created as soon as we make a selection of left foot, right foot, or both feet. And this will take place in the background even while we perform other tasks on different tabs. Once all the images have been rendered, we can then make adjustments to them. For example, many of the tools found in the toolbar on the MPR tab are also found here. We can adjust the window and leveling on any one of these images. We can also zoom in or out on any one of these images, and we can also pan. Double clicking on any one image also brings it full screen if we would like to make additional adjustments. Some of the other tools that are also available to us include the ability to make HU measurements, to draw angles, that's both simple angles and cob angles, and we can also make distance measurements as well. These individual images can also be saved as a JPEG or a DICOM image, and we can also select it to a printer if a printer driver has been installed on the computer that we're working with. All of the images that are created in the Insta-X tab are basically thick slices where we've rotated the view so we're looking at it from a specific angle. For example, a Saltzman hindfoot PA, we have rotated the data set, we've tilted the data set along the x-axis to a particular point, the standardized Saltzman view angle, and then we've created a thicker slice to include the anatomy that you would normally see in a hindfoot posterior anterior view. The difference between an anterior posterior view and a calcaneal anterior posterior view is that the standardized anterior posterior view will include all parts of the anatomy. The slice is thick enough to include the metatarsals that you can see and also the toes. The calcaneal AP, on the other hand, if you look closely, does not include the metatarsals or the toes. We have made the slice just thick enough to include the calcaneus and not much else. By removing the superimposed metatarsals and other bones, this enables us to get a better view of the calcaneus. Another example of a slightly modified view is the dorsal plantar view versus the clipped dorsal plantar view. If you look closely at the dorsal plantar view, we can see the tibia and the fibula here, but they tend to obscure our view of the talus and parts of the calcaneus. If we go to the clipped dorsal plantar view, we can see those bones much better, and that's because we have clipped off the top part of the volume of the scan that was taken, and this enables us to better see the talus and the calcaneus. So a clipped dorsal plantar view, as opposed to a regular dorsal plantar view, we're not going the full 20 centimeters in height of the volume on display. In the clipped dorsal plantar view, we've cut off about the top half. This enables us to see the talus and the calcaneus much better with the tibia and the fibula out of the way. If you're working with an older version of CubeVue and you don't have these particular views available to you, for example the clip dorsal planar view or the calcaneal AP, be sure to contact CurveBeam technical support to get an upgrade with these latest versions of the Insta-X views. If you want to print a particular image, select Print and Print Image, and whichever image is highlighted will then be printed. If, for example, you wanted to print the oblique right foot, then click on oblique right foot, print, and print that image, whichever one is highlighted. If you select Print All Images, all the images that are displayed will then be printed. If you want to print all of the images except for, say, the Saltzman hindfoot, go over here to this list that's on the left, remove the check mark from Saltzman hindfoot. Notice how that image has now disappeared from the list by removing the checkbox, and then if you print all images, the remaining 8 images will be printed. By going back and placing a check mark, we see that the Saltzman hindfoot PA view has now been restored. This also holds true if we want to take these images and electronically send them to a PACS system or other DICOM destination. Whichever images are checked will be sent. Whichever images are not checked will not be sent. So view the images, make any adjustments you deem necessary, such as adjust window level or zoom, and then select DICOM Send. In one of our other CubeVue tutorials, we explain how to properly configure your DICOM Send. You may also need information from your IT department to do a DICOM Send. But in this case, a total of 7 images, the ones that are checked, will be sent to a DICOM destination once we select Start. If we have unchecked a number of different images, we can either check each one back manually or select all, and all of the images will then be selected and displayed again. We can also custom make our own images. For example, if we want to create a medium thickness slice like you see here, and switch this to radiographic mode. If I now right click on that particular image, notice that I have a pop-up box available that says Transfer Image to Insta-X page. This option is also available to us on the coronal view and on the axial view, but it is not available to us on the 3D rendering view. So if we transfer this image to the Insta-X page, then go back to the Insta-X tab, we see the image that we have created is now available to us. If we want to give it a name, we can select it and then type in a description over here. And then that will appear as well. The image will be labeled, especially if we choose to print it or send this particular image to PACS. And that labeling, again, will be based on the description that we enter, up to a 64-character maximum. When we can select and create a number of different images in the NPR tab and send them to Insta-X, and then at the end, again, we can select and print them individually or print them in a batch or do a DICOM send in a batch. Once we are done with a customized image that we have created for the Insta-X page, whether we've printed it or sent it to DICOM destination, on this particular image we can right click and select Remove. That option is not available to us on the other images, just on the ones that we created on the NPR or Combined 3D NPR tab and sent them to the Insta-X page. One thing that may happen from time to time, especially if we are only scanning one foot, is that we may have selected right foot in the beginning of the scan and it turns out it's actually the patient's left foot. The way to correct this is to go back to the Combined 3D NPR tab. Then up here in the corner of the patient scan, right next to where it says Series in this case, there's a small drop-down menu that's available to us. Clicking on this arrow, we're going to select Reset Session. What this does is it removes everything in the session file, and that will include any measurements we made, distance and angle measurements, and returns the state as though the patient had just been scanned. Now we will properly select left foot and OK. And remember, sometimes the Insta-X images may take a few seconds to create the images, depending on what else we're doing with the software. But going to the tab, we can see the image creation has already started. If by chance you come here and you see that these red circles keep spinning, all of them, and no images appear after a minute or so, you can also reload the Insta-X definitions and it will start the process over again, kind of a reboot process for creating the images. Something to keep in mind, again, is that these images are thicker slices viewed at specific angles, such as it would take to create a Saltzman view or an oblique view. We can make measurements on them, especially distance and angle measurements, and the measurements will be accurate. However, the images, especially if we print them or send them to PACS, will not be calibrated the same way that regular DICOM slices will be. These will be DICOM screen capture images. So again, the DICOM distance measurements and angle measurements will be accurate for the image that they were drawn on, but the images themselves will not be fully calibrated. This video tutorial for the Insta-X tab was created using CubeVue version 2809. Some of these features may be available in earlier versions of CubeVue as well. If you're not running CubeVue version 2809 and you would like to upgrade to 2809 or the current version, please be sure to contact CurveBeam Technical Support to set up an appointment to have your software upgraded.